To really show just how insane the price increases of Bitcoin are in between these cycles, let's just imagine we are in 2017 for a minute. Close your eyes and really imagine it. Despacito is on the radio, the Nintendo Switch was just released, and the dumpster fire that was 2020 still seemed like the distant future. You there? Okay. Now let's imagine it's early in 2017 and that you just heard of Bitcoin for the very first time. It's this new virtual currency that people are saying is going to change the world. And as you do some reading, you find it costs around $1,000 for just one Bitcoin. But as you look back to last year, which is 2016, you realize that one Bitcoin was worth a lot closer to $500 then. So its value has doubled just over the last year. So without doing much more reading, you go ahead and decide to buy just one Bitcoin for $1,000. Maybe it will double to $2,000 and then you can take your money out. A few months go by and nothing super noteworthy happens. But then summer rolls around. In May, your one Bitcoin has now doubled to $2,000. But because it's doing so well, you decide to go ahead and hold on to it. Then June rolls around and it's worth $3,000. Then in July, it drops down to $2,000, but you decide to keep holding because you've still doubled your money. Then August comes around and your Bitcoin is worth over $4,000. But the fun is just getting started. In October, you're up to $6,000, but you still decide to hold because now you're hearing that it could even hit $10,000. So you're still going to hold just in case. Some people are even saying $20,000, but you're a little more skeptical of that price just because it's so high. In November, your Bitcoin is worth $7,000 and then $8,000. Then we get into December, and in just a couple of weeks, your Bitcoin is worth not $9,000, not $10,000, not even $11,000, but $19,000 US. You've just made one of the most insane trades of your entire life. A casual $1,000 has turned into almost $20,000 in less than a year. You wish you could have bought more, and heck, you even recently started throwing in a few bucks from every paycheck to try and get more Bitcoin before it gets even higher. You want to get as much as you can. After all, Bitcoin is the future of money. But then it happens. The good times are over, Bitcoin crashes. And by March of 2018, Bitcoin is back under 10K. You still did pretty good and decide that maybe Bitcoin isn't the future of money. Maybe it really is dead. And honestly, 10K seems like a lot for something like Bitcoin. It's probably way overpriced. So you sell. And you still feel pretty good. You're reading articles about how Bitcoin is dead and it was a fun experiment, but ultimately it failed. And at least you were one of the lucky ones who was able to make a decent profit off the whole thing. But just out of curiosity, you check the price now and again. 2019 rolls around and you did good. It's now under 4K for one Bitcoin. Then you forget about it. A decent amount of time passes and you hear nothing of it. You're busy with life. 2020 rolls around and things get complicated. The thought of Bitcoin never really crosses your mind anymore. Then one day in November of 2020, while scrolling through your phone, you see an article. Bitcoin price hits all-time high of almost $20,000. It all comes flooding back. You had owned one Bitcoin just a couple of years ago, and actually, you'd been buying more and could have been buying more very cheap these last 2 years, but you didn't because of the crash. You decide not to buy in. $20,000 is probably around as high as it will get. After all, it only got to that price for just a moment a couple of years back, but you couldn't be more wrong. And by April of 2021, the price of Bitcoin is over $60,000, and it gets to almost $70,000 by November. But then it begins to fall, drops to $50,000, $40,000, then $30,000. And articles everywhere saying that Bitcoin is dead, it's a failed experiment, and it will never recover. Then in September of 2022, it has dropped all the way down to $20,000. There's ultimate fear in the market, and many who were investing in Bitcoin at its highs are now gone. $20,000 for one Bitcoin is really cheap, you tell yourself. I'm gonna go ahead and put a few thousand in. So you do. The price that you once thought was a best case scenario outcome for Bitcoin is now the price you feel extremely lucky to be able to buy it at. That's the difference between just one cycle.